Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guest today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. And today we're talking to the leaders, which is, yes, you probably, if you're listening to this podcast. My question though is, are you a leader or are you managing people? That's always an important conversation to have in the leadership conversation, because there's two different ways to look at that. You could just be showing up and people could be working underneath you, or you could be actually leading them. And that's what we want to talk about today with an amazing guest. So before we go any further, Doug Thorpe, welcome to the show. And thank you for being here.
Hey, Brandon. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
So the topic for the episode is one simple way to uplevel your leadership. That's a big claim, but I love how the simplicity of it. So before we get there, though, I want to kind of hear who you tend to work with in terms of leaders. What do they look like? And more importantly, what do they look like when they first come to you?
Yeah, great question. And I liked your segue into this show today. There is a significant difference between being a manager and a leader. And a lot of entrepreneurs that go out there and they work very hard starting up their business, but they're doing it from a management standpoint. It's like, what's next? What button do I have to flip? What step do I need to take? So it's kind of very operational. It's very process, and it's turning the screws, flipping the switches. But if you really want to scale a business, you've got to start thinking about building a team. And to have a really effective team, you've got to lead that team, not just manage that team. So that's where I come in. Most of my clients are business owners who have been at it a while. They've discovered they've hit kind of an invisible wall and they're scratching their head. They don't know why they can't get the business over that hump and the hurdle. So they come to me and we start doing a deep dive into what they're working on or working in, and inevitably it comes down to the revelation that they have continued to try to manage the business, not lead the business.
Yeah, it's an important place in the growth of a company. I've heard, I don't know how accurate this stat is, but something like 4% of businesses ever even cross the 7-figure revenue mark. So $1 million a year in revenue, which when I first heard that honestly blew my mind, because that's where this shift seems to take place, where, you probably have a team of people, maybe even a few on staff. You're obviously doing something right. You're making a pretty good amount of revenue. But it's just something's wrong. Something's missing. So when you're first encountering these people, at least in the small business world, that's who the audience of this show is. What are some of the things, like what does their day look like, and how do you help them kind of see what that invisible wall is?
Yeah, great question. And you are right. I'm not sure about the statistic part, but it is kind of dismal, really, to your point. The thing I typically see them doing, they're just that. Doing is the word. They're very bogged down in the doing of the day to day. They are, continuing to have a hand in the process or the transactional flow. They have not yet elevated themselves as the owner, founder, to more of a CEO kind of mindset. So it really is a mind shift in the owner's head that has to get flipped on or turned on, to start asking the question, how can I get out of the day-to-day and have my team be responsible for more of that? I got into this many, many years ago. In my early career, I was a banker, and I watched businesses come and go. And I saw this pattern that they would start up a business. We would help them with financing. They would have a nice ramp up and they would hit maybe the 7-figure, maybe multiple 7-figure on into 5, 10 million in revenue, but then they would hit this wall, and oftentimes they didn't survive hitting the wall. The company kind of cratered. It bothered me because I wanted my customers to succeed. I wanted them to go to the next level. So I really started working on this, trying to analyze and understand what that was about, what was holding them back. And in every case, it was that mind shift between stop being the doer, the contributor, everything has to touch your hand, and let others develop into people on your team that you can leverage and scale.
Yeah, and it's not easy, right? To just go from doing the work to delegating the work, because a lot of times people find out the hard way that just barking orders is not delegating. And there is also an art to doing that efficiently and effectively, so that your team is actually empowered to take on the work, and not only that, but take on the outcomes and the ownership of the outcomes. So the transition from manager, existing leader, whatever you want to call it, to the CEO mindset, to a true leader. What does that look like? How do we start to navigate that transition? And I guess really, what is the one simple trick to become a better leader?
Well, it very much starts with a hard self-analysis. You as the owner founder have to ask the question, what are my beliefs? What thing might be holding me back in allowing this company to open up, expand, and grow? And inevitably, when you do that deeper dive and do your own self reflection, you realize you've got some beliefs or biases or stories in your head that delegate. You brought up delegation. That's a great example. So many people say, I don't trust my person for doing this. I don't think they're going to do it as well as I do. Well, my answer is shame on you. You haven't showed them how you want it done. And that's where the leadership comes in. If you can take your vision of how you want things done, if you want a particular little twist in your product, that's great. That's super. Maybe that is your market differentiator. But train and teach and coach your own team how to do that little twist. Let it be the thing that differentiates your product or service. But you have to teach your people how to do that. You have to give them a chance to try. Yeah, they're probably going to get it wrong the first couple of times, but have a system in there for monitoring that and using the experiences to train them up so that they can do it your way. And yes, it's an investment of time and effort, maybe even some materials to make those errors and get it done. But in the long run, it's a very small investment with a much greater reward.
Is that one of the things you see that holds back true leadership, the effective delegation, or even giving things to other people in general, or is it somewhere else?
Well, a lot of it's not just the delegation, but it all goes back to the basic mindset of asking yourself the question, what do I think about the team I've got around me, and what do we want to accomplish with this business? And if your quick answer is, I don't trust everybody, well, maybe you have trust issues. I mean, just to be really blunt about it. And if you do, that's not going to bode well in the long run. You have to be able to rise above some of that and ask yourself, why do I have trust issues? What is it that, and how can I or should I let that impact the success of my business? The answer is no. You need to let go of that. And if truly you've hired the wrong team to do your work, then maybe you need to do a house cleaning and start over. Too often what happens though in startup mode, people will hire friends and family to help them get the business going, not being perfect fits for what really needs to get done. And then as the business does start to get traction, you realize, Uncle Bob and Aunt Sue aren't the best employees to have on my team. They're great people. We love having dinner at their house, but they're not going to be good for me in the long run. That becomes a very difficult discussion to say, thank you very much, but I need to move on.
Yeah, and that brings up the hiring conversation in general, right? Because even if that's what got you here, wherever here is, now you need to hire with intention, and you need to know what you're looking for, because ideally, if you're the one doing the doing, and you want to get to that CEO role, you have to hire people who are not only capable, but in most cases way better than you would ever be at doing that thing. So what does that start to look like? Because now we're going from someone who's focused on doing to someone who's focused strictly on hiring and finding really good talent, which is a totally different skill set. So how do you do that the right way?
Well, it all starts with taking a look at the jobs that you think you need in your business to be successful and draw an org chart based on job description, not personality or behavior. You need to say, well, I need these 5 functional things happening in my business, or whatever the number is. But you define functional boxes to say, I need some of this, I need some of that, and some of this over here. And then you start creating the actual job description for that box on your chart so that you then can go do your hiring based on that requirement. And that's where the evolution of startup businesses tends to kind of come apart. Like I said, you typically lean on family and friends to just come in and do the work. Just help me put the orders out, or do whatever. But that's not really functionally serving the good of your business. So as you evolve, you want to think back first on the function you need performed and who's the best person to do that function. Go to market, find that person. And a good example, I dealt with an owner a few years ago who was already humming at about 3 million topside revenue, and said he really believed that in a short term, 2 to 3 years, he could get to 10. And he said, I want to go hire a sales manager. And he started showing me some resumes, and it was people that had been around 2 million, 3 million, whatnot. I said, you're already there. You don't need those guys. You need to go hire a guy that knows how to get you to 10. Find somebody that has already had a proven track record of elevating a company to 10 million in revenue, make them an offer. And yeah, you might have to give them a little equity or a little juice to inspire them to come join you, but help take you on that trajectory and find that person that already knows how to do that.
Is that one of the things that make a good leader? Because the first thing that comes to my mind is most people would probably say, oh, well, I don't want to pay more, or I don't want to give up equity, but I want top talent. I mean, you kind of have to pick which way you want to go. Is that one of the marks of a good leader? Someone who's willing to, not even bat an eye and say, no, that's the person that's going to help me get to where I want to be. Do whatever it takes.
Right. Well, it is. I think that definitely falls on that side of the ledger. You have to be more open to being really creative how you make these things happen. And in the whole debate about ownership and equity, you definitely can tell the person that is thinking bigger picture leadership versus very small minded. I want to hold this thing. And, as the old adage goes, 100% of nothing is not worth much, but, 52% of a much bigger thing can be a whole lot more. And you always have that opportunity, and leapfrog that a little bit. I was interviewing someone on my own podcast who was part of a 3-man team who founded a restaurant chain in California. And at first, it was just a restaurant, and they had an idea and a concept. They wanted to go do it, but it took root. They quickly expanded. And in about a 5-year run, they grew up to be $100 million business. But along that journey, as that arc was happening, the three of them got together and they looked at each other and said, none of us are capable of being CEO of a company this size. Let's go hire a CEO that knows what he's doing. And they went out to the market and they found that guy. And then, yes, collectively, they had to give up some equity to attract the right person. But that person came in midway in that journey and took them from the 50 million up to 100 million valuation. And then they were approached, for a buyout and got their payday for all their hard work.
I was thinking of that question too, because I mean, a lot of people, if you've never grown a business to that size or even been involved in a business with that size, you don't really understand what it takes to be a CEO or even an executive of that size company. It's a totally different animal. And it's something that, if handled poorly, will destroy the whole company. So
Right.
when you're growing your business, what's the mindset to go in there and say, I got the business to 1, 2, 3, 5 million. I don't know if I want to necessarily up level my leadership skills to be the CEO, or if I want to be maybe the chairman of the board, or continue to be the sales manager, because that's where my passion is. Is that, I think a lot of people see that as like shameful, or they're taking a hit and their ego. What is the actual right way to approach that conversation to recognize maybe it's not me, but I could find that CEO who's actually going to take the company there?
Well, I don't want to say smart, but I'll say the more enlightened individual will be open to that idea and be emotionally intelligent and aware to say, I got my limits. There's only so much I want to do. I don't know that I want to walk away from the visionary fun of creating and innovating for my business. Maybe I need to get somebody in here to run the day-to-day operations, somebody that really knows how to execute on things, and we'll figure out the harmony that we need to have to make that work. But again, I would argue it's the more mature leader that's going to have the ability to make that call on themselves and say, I'm not the guy.
Yeah, no, that's a good perspective. And I like that too. I think, would you say more enlightened? That's a good way to look at it. I wish more people took that perspective instead of just saying, no, it's my business, I have to run it. That's just, that could lead to disaster sometimes. So, Doug, this has been an awesome conversation. If someone does want to take that next step in their leadership journey, or help even someone on their team get to the next level, where can they go to find out more about you?
Yeah, if you'll just hop over to my website at Doug Thorpe, that's THORPE, DougThorpe.com. Hop over there. There is a link to take either a leadership survey so you can kind of score yourself on where you are today. It's free. You just hit that button. It's right at the top of the page. Or schedule a consult. Happy to visit with you. No charge. Just let's talk about your leadership needs and what you're thinking, and see what you may want to do next.
I love it. That's awesome. I put that website. It's on the screen. It'll be in the show notes down below, so you can go click over there as soon as you're done listening to this episode. But Doug, I want to ask you a question, and it's how I love to end these episodes. It's a question for a question. So we believe at What If, powerful questions get you powerful answers. And in the context of this conversation today about up leveling your leadership, becoming a better leader, and really causing your company to be able to grow to that next level, whatever that next level is for you. What is that powerful question that the listener can ask themselves until they get the powerful answer to take their business to the next level?
I think the basic question is look in the mirror and ask yourself, am I telling myself a good story about what I'm doing?
Mm, that's a good one. I don't know if everyone's going to want that answer, but do the work, answer the question, and you will get the answer. Doug, I love it. Thanks for being here today.
All right, Brandon, thank you.
Wherever you are watching and listening, make sure you subscribe. We love having you here. We love putting these episodes out 5 days a week so we can help you get your business to that next level, one little step at a time. We will see you tomorrow on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for being here.